A legendary weekend in the Lou. PGA Tour champions compete in the Stifel Charity Classic, presented by Compliance Solutions, September 4th through 7th, and COAR. Perform live with your Friday ticket. Visit StifelCharityClassic.com today.
Good morning, friends, and welcome into Card Central 365. I am Ethan Hannaford. He is Brenden Schaeffer. And as always, all of the content here on STL Sports Central is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. And this Card Central 365 brought to you by Gray Bar. Some new news here for the Cardinals on this Sunday morning. You could argue good, argue bad. Definitely starts off with bad, though, as Victor Scott is heading to the 10-day IL with an ankle sprain after that awkward play trying to rob the home run last night that Aaron Judge hit, landed against the wall, ankle somewhere in the mix, landed awkwardly, collided with the wall. So Victor Scott heading to the 10-day IL. That is the bad news for him. The good news is that you are getting to see another new piece from this Cardinals system, and that is outfielder Nathan Church, who has been selected from Memphis. He'll be in the lineup today, according to Katie Wu. He is the 14th ranked prospect in the Cardinals organization, according to MLB Pipeline, and he has been mashing at AAA over his past 53 games. We will get into all of that here in just a few minutes and really dive into that. But first, let's kind of try and put a bow. It doesn't have to be a pretty looking bow. I can't tie bows personally, Brenden. I don't know about you, but let's go ahead and let's just wrap on last night. And let's be quite honest, the disaster that it was, it felt like on several different levels for the Cardinals in that 12-8 loss that doomed them for trying to come back with a series win. Your overall thoughts on game 2 of the series for the Redbirds?
Yeah, I mean, that was rough to have a performance like you did from the offense against really one of the best starters in baseball that they were able to do some of their damage against last night in Max Fried, and to lose with your ace on the mound. I mean, that was brutal. And it wasn't just Sonny that struggled. Kyle Leahy had probably his worst outing as a Cardinal. Roddery Munoz is just in there to kind of mop up, and he couldn't really do it. Granillo, that's a bright spot from the pen, but that's a tough feeling after the Cardinals were able to get to Max Fried in a major way. To not be able to come away with that win is just kind of a tale of how everybody feels about this season at this point.
It's kind of funny because the offense had been so quiet for several days, going into, I guess, the second game of the Rockies series being the first real note. I guess you could argue the first one too, if it wasn't for Brendan Donovan. So through the majority of the Rockies series, through the start of the Yankees series, and then all of a sudden you explode for 8 runs, and the time that you explode for 8 runs, your pitching just can't come through. And it feels like that's kind of starting to become the tale of this Cardinals team, right? Is that you just early in the year, it felt like that's what was working, right? Is everything was kind of gelling together on the days when the offense was quiet. The starting pitching was phenomenal, and on the days that the starting pitching was phenomenal, they would carry that offense. But right now it feels like it's the opposite, and it doesn't help, right, when you have multiple impact pieces like Wilson Contreras, like Brendan Donovan, that are on the injured list, or excuse me, not on the injured list, but taking away bench spots. So you're playing with a short bench. It's a tough spot right now to be in if you are the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, it is, and it's why they absolutely could not afford to have Victor Scott II, try to wait a couple of days to see with his ankle sprain if he could find a way to get through it. Like you can't continue to play as short as they have, and they're just going to have to make a move here. The good news is you at least do get an opportunity to see somebody that I know Cardinals fans are interested to see. And according to Katie Wu, the prospect Nathan Church is going to be in that starting lineup. I haven't seen officially that lineup yet. We'll see if we get to look at Donovan or Wilson back in that lineup. But that's exciting at least. I hate the circumstance under which it happens, Ethan.
Sure.
I mean, Victor Scott, putting his body on the line to try to make a play. That's Cardinal baseball right there. It's unfortunate that he ends up getting injured as a result of that, but we can kind of look through that part and say, hey, at least there is something to be gleaned here where Nathan Church has had a really good season to this point in Memphis. He's, crossed through a couple few different levels. Really, Springfield is where he spent a decent amount of time in the beginning of the year and performed well. They called him up from there, and he's done a really nice job at AAA. And now Cardinals fans are going to get a glimpse to see what he is all about. And in the starting lineup day one, I think is the right call.
Church was a 2022 11th round pick for the Cardinals out of UC Irvine. Like you mentioned, Brendan, a guy that has had some success, some serious success, especially in 2025, hitting 329 combined across three levels, single A, double A, and triple A. But it really turned it on in double A and triple A. The OPS 921 in his last 53 games in triple A. And you wondered, you had seen a lot of fans, especially in these chats, Brendan, calling for Nathan Church to be called up. But when you look at his style, right, a guy that can play center field is going to play some corner outfield for you as well, is a left-handed hitter. He fits almost right into that redundancy, it feels like. So you wondered, unless it was going to be by injury, if a guy like Nathan Church was ever going to get an opportunity. And as you mentioned, you hate that Victor Scott is going to have this setback. And who knows, sprained ankle, how severe it is, because these are the kinds of things that can hang you up for weeks because there's not really much you can do besides just let them heal. But who knows, maybe you could end up being a short thing. But you have to get Victor Scott's bat right at some point. You have to get his approach right. And hopefully there's still time for them to be able to do that going into 26 so that he can hit the ground running to start off next year. But back to Nathan Church, would you agree that it felt like there was never going to be an opportunity for him unless there was an injury at some point somewhere, at least this year?
Yeah, and I mean, Victor Scott specifically being the one to get injured opens that door up a little bit more for Church because he's a left-handed hitting bat that can play center field. And so, like when Lars Nyberg spent time on the shelf, you've got other corner guys that you're looking to plug in if you're Ollie Marmol. And so that sort of, it wasn't a 1-for-1. In this case, I mean, unless you're going to roll out Garrett Hampson every day in center field, and look, there's no value to that. There's barely value to him being able to, like, I get it. He could come in defensively. That's not relevant. That somebody had to stand out there is really about the value he provides. And he's a good, solid defender, but he provides zero at the plate. And so he cannot be getting starts for this team in a August, September that really, as they lose more games, we need to shift the focus. It has to be about nobody wants to hear the word runway. And so it's runway for a guy like Nathan Church to just go, hey, show what you got, kid, because we weren't really sure how to fit you in. Now we do see an opening to fit you in there. They could play a little bit of Newbar in center field, but otherwise, I think Nathan Church should get some genuine run. I don't want to see Hampson one single time in the starting lineup. It's a mistake if he's in there one singular time. I don't care if it's a lefty. I do not care because you cannot, look, guys, they're 61 and 63. We got to shut up about the wild card. Ollie Marmol doesn't have to, in his heart of hearts, shut up about the wild card, but we can be realistic and go, hey, there needs to be some other priorities at play here. And by the way, Nathan Church is going to give you a better chance to win a baseball game than Garrett Hampson is either, because there is a chance that Nathan Church is going to have something to provide at the plate. So that's not even a conversation. This is an interesting line. Like, okay, why now for Church? A bit surprised they choose Church over Ciani, but I get it since they're going to protect him this winter, so they might as well see what he's got. It's 100% right. Like, Ciani will be an interesting conversation this winter. I'm not saying he automatically has to be, an outright off the 40-man candidate, because I believe he is a valuable player, but he's a valuable player under the right context. It's a winning team that could use a lefty bat off their bench. They could use that luxury of having a great defender to come off the bench when you're up 3-2 in the eighth. and one of your outfielders takes his last AB and his spot's not going to come up again, and you can plug in your Sterling defense, your hands team. That's the value of Siani. Church, let's be honest. I mean, I like Lars Nyberg. Do I think today that Nathan Church is a better baseball player at the big league level than Lars Nyberg? I would say I would not bet that. But if we wanted to make the argument, okay, what is it at this point about 24-year-old Nathan Church numbers this year that don't say, hey, let's give a look to this guy? He's not a huge power guy, 7 homers in 242 plate appearances at Memphis, but 13 homers on the full season when you combine AA and AAA. That's about like everybody else in the Cardinal lineup, right?
Yeah.
You can't really translate that to say he'll do that exactly in the big leagues, but 16 stolen bases this season kind of stands out. Caught 5 times, but 16 for 21. That's an okay rate. Here's what I like from his AAA numbers: 24 walks to 25 strikeouts. Okay. Yeah. Like, you're seeing under the hood some things that I want to see how that translates to big league ball. Because when you've got a guy that's got good bat to ball skills, batting .335, he takes just enough walks to really raise the on base to 400, and he slugs a little bit as well with a 521 because he has hit 11 doubles. He does have good speed to turn doubles into triples. He's got 4 of those and 7 homers right now at the AAA level in 53 games. Like, there's a skill set here that if Nathan Church comes out, and Farmhands mentioning this, Nathan Church could run a little bit more than he does. Here's my thought. I like Lars Nyberg, but when you have a guy like Nathan Church doing what he's doing and basically a carbon copy of like the skill set that it feels like we attribute to Lars Nyberg, and Lars Nyberg OPSing 700 this year instead of 750, 770, 780 like he's supposed to, like he historically has. If a Nate Church comes in here and OPS is 722, there's nothing that tells me Nathan Church is not just as valuable as a Lars Nyberg to your baseball team, and there should be some level of either competition or consider, hey, whichever guy has more trade value, move him, and the other guy can play next year. Because you don't know until you see it from a Nathan Church, but nothing I see from his Memphis numbers, small sample size, but nothing I see tells me he's not worth pursuing in that avenue because of the different numbers that jump off the page.
I want to dive into that a little bit more here in just a second. But first, let's go ahead and take a quick pause. Let's tell you a little bit about our show sponsor here. Let's tell you about DraftKings, where you can download the DraftKings Pick 6 app. And when you download that DraftKings Pick 6 app, all you have to do is pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players. Just like that, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. And I'm telling you what, it's the go-to thing to do on days like this. You're going into you're getting ready to get into a ball game like this today, and you want to add a little bit of spice to it. You want to add a little bit of excitement as to more than just the final score. It's the perfect time of year to do it, especially for this Cards team where you feel like there's not quite that late season magic that you feel like is on the way. Add that yourself here with the DraftKings Pick 6 app. Don't settle for that smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6. And right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5 with DraftKings Pick 6 app.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Just running through a little bit of the technical difficulties right now on the stream side. Terrible. I wanted real quick. Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's still church on a Sunday, so let's be thankful. Redbird Farmhands mentions that Lars has quite a bit more pure impact in the bat compared to Church. I think that's what I'm saying. I would project that to be true. However, I want to see that. I want to see that confirmed because for as much as I have been a defender of Lars Nyberg, and I'm a big fan of his, I also think when you look at a sample size of 2025, you're going to be underwhelmed with what Lars Nyberg has done. The reasons for that, whether he can bounce back next year, can all be a topic for discussion. But with Nathan Church's pure numbers at AAA, it's not as simple as you say, hey, here's his numbers. You take 20% off, and that's what he'll be. He's going to be a 780 OPS. You can't just simply assign that. But I want to see him not do it before I tell him that he can't. And I think that's what the value is, Ethan, at least in my mind, of Nathan Church getting a look here over the next couple of weeks.
How about this poll from Mary saying that she would like for Nathan Church to channel the inner Bo Hart, but actually keep it going? Bo Hart,
Yeah,
how about that?
I don't want that. God bless Bo Hart, but that's he was very much a flash in the pan for the Cardinals back in the day. Very exciting name for sure. We always love talking about him. But the 698 career OPS for Bo Hart is it's about what Lars Nyberg OPS is this year, and we know that that's not been good enough. So I like the poll though.
Let me ask a question, because here's my devil's advocate. And not that I'm not excited for Nathan Church, but I am a little bit surprised that they actually did it, that they actually made this decision. Because part of me thought, well, Lars Nyberg is just going to play just about every single day in center field, and then it's going to allow for more time for Jordan Walker, Alec Burleson, whoever else, like Ivan Herrera mixed in there, all the outfield options, right? Part of me thought that they were going to do that. Now I know obviously. It's become pretty clear at this point how Ollie Marmol feels about Lars Nyberg center. It just happens so rarely. Now it makes sense for it to happen rarely because you got Victor Scott playing there every day. But even prior to then, he was so adamant against playing Lars Nyberg consistently in center field. It was pretty telling. So I'm curious as to your thoughts on this. I know you're getting to see a guy in Nathan Church, right? But my question is, as far as priority-wise, continuing to get these guys at bats, this felt like an opportunity in my eyes, Brendan, for some of these guys to, okay, now they can really play every day. And that's going to be affected a little bit. I'm not saying I'm necessarily backing. Imagine and understand how there would be some people out there that are saying, okay, you finally have the pathway cleared a little bit. Let those three guys play every freaking day. And that way, you have your answer by the year's end, but they're not doing that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, and I think part of it is what you said. Like, there is a legitimate factor of not too keen on playing Lars Nyberg in center field. And so you'll do it from time to time, but you don't want to do it regularly. And is that partially due to, not overexposing him to the position because of the rigors defensively? You don't want to get him banged up. You don't want to overextend him. That's probably part of it. And like, realistically, from the perspective of Jordan Walker, we definitely would like to see him as regularly as possible. I just think it's those limiting factors of what you have defensively in center field if you don't do this move. That's what's interesting. Does this automatically mean that Nathan Church plays every day? I'm going to go ahead and say no, but I think he's into that rotation where he's going to play just about as often as Jordan Walker, just about as often as some of these other guys, and Nyberg will play a couple of times per week in center field. That would be my guess. But I think when you look at it in the aggregate, you don't have enough center field coverage if you don't pull up a center fielder. And it would have been pretty underwhelming if Ciani was that answer, because we kind of have an idea for what he is. What he is, I think, could carry value if the Cardinals fix their roster and change it up and make it a little bit less left-handed heavy in the offseason, which I'm not necessarily expecting them to do. But if they were to do that, then suddenly you go, hey, Ciani feels a little bit different as a little piece off your bench that you can appreciate. But I don't need to see Ciani over the next 6 weeks to be able to decide in the offseason how I want to move forward with him. How I move forward with Ciani is more pertinent to what I do with the rest of the roster. So there's nothing to evaluate there. With Nathan Church, he's 24 years old too. It's not like he's a 22-year-old prospect where he's got to play every single day. I don't think he has to play every single day. I think it's time for him to get a look at the big leagues. He has cleared the levels of the lower minors to be able to be here. And so I just think it's an appropriate time to do it. And you know what? We get him right there in the mix right away in the starting lineup today, which I think is great. So, yeah, I'm not going to say I'm super surprised. Like, when you sit back and say, hey, if there's a Victor IL stint, who's the guy? This would have been the hope. But also, we should probably temper expectations to know that it's probably not going to be, 7 days out of 7 that Nathan Church is in that lineup. But if it's 4 out of 7 or 4 out of 6, you can live with that and be able to evaluate something from him. Yeah, he's in it, and this is a good point too from Darkness. I keep saying 24. he's 25, but in his age 24 season. The way that cuts off is on July 1st. That's your age season that you're playing in, whatever you are on July 1st. And so he's since turned 25, but that even further proves my point that, like, at a certain point, the Cardinals have hoarded these prospects, these young players, and then it's like they get up here reluctantly, kicking and screaming, like, fine, we'll give them a chance. And by then, they're not even prospect age anymore. Just understand, like, teams like the Rays, other teams, they'll bring up players and, like, they'll play sometimes, and sometimes they sit, but they're in the big league environment. It was time for Nathan Church to be in the environment.
Yeah. You have a lot of redundancy on this roster. I know we've said that a lot, and it tends to be a daily subject.
Oh, boy. We might be losing Ethan to the ether here. Ethan's going to try to bounce back and see if we can find him. I'll read a couple of comments as Ethan tries to reload his situation here. StreamYard's giving us some real trouble today. Mentions that the guys can still play that we're talking about, but Ollie just has to keep Newt out of the lineup. I know I'm a broken record, but we know what Newt is and need to see what the other guys have. Saying we know what Newt is I think we do know what he is, but I don't think that is the derogatory way in which it was stated here by Jerry, excuse me. Lars Nyberg this year has not been good enough. He's been decidedly just an average player, and that's not a compliment. 99 OPS plus, he's OPSing 704. But for his career, he's OPSing 757. If he were sitting here today, OPSing 757 in this current season, that would be a perfectly suitable guy to have in your lineup. He's not a great defender. He's an okay defender. He's not a superstar player. We do know what he is, but what he is still a big league starter in any other year but this one. If Lars Nyberg from today to the end of his career is going to OPS 704 and have an OPS plus of 99, then yeah, that's not a player that I am going to prioritize playing time for because he doesn't stand out defensively. His bat is what carries the reason that he's in there. And so, for me, that would just be a player that doesn't, if he's blocking something better, that just doesn't really feel like there's a point to it. So I would agree with that if we could deduce that 2025 is going to be what he is for the rest of time. And I just don't think I am 100% ready to do that because we've got a sample size of 4 or 5 years of Lars Nyberg being better than that. So, whether or not we get that version of him back remains to be seen. But Ethan, if you have thoughts on this, basically my thought is with Nyberg, I agree we know what he is. But what he has been for 4 years prior to this one is different than what he's been this year. If you project that he's going to be this just average dude the rest of his career, then yeah, I'm not prioritizing that in my lineup anymore. But he had a 4-year sample size of being more than that. And so that's why I am not ready to just say, oh, he can't play in the lineup. No, I still want to see him mixed in with Nathan Church, with Walker, with Gorman. But it doesn't have to be every single day. That's my take.
We know that there has been value for these outfielders outside of the St. Louis market, that there has been engagement. There's been curiosity as to what the asking price would be for some of these pieces, and Lars Nyberg is included in that. So let me ask you this: based off of as baseball continues to grow more modern and modern, Lars Nyberg is the kind of the idea of what modern baseball is, right? He fits a lot of the StatCast profiles really well. Part of me wonders if a team like the Tampa Bay Rays or the Los Angeles Dodgers that look at some of those underlying numbers and say, oh, yeah, we can turn that into serious on-field production. If some of those teams would look at that and want that. I think that Lars Nyberg has value outside of St. Louis. I think that because of I think the recency bias here in St. Louis says that the struggles have been evident in large part in 2025, I guess you would say, outside of the first 6 weeks of the year. Just hasn't been the same guy. But everyone forgets about how good he was the first 6 weeks of the year. It's a guy that had an OPS over 900, broke the MLB walk record for the month of March and April. So I mean, this is a guy that has been able to relatively consistently produce when he has been healthy throughout his career. I know 2025 has been a step back, but I think a lot of teams look at Lars Nyberg and say that's a guy that we could do something with.
Yeah, and I also want to see him play.
Exactly,
I want to see him play a little bit.
And not having him play is not going to help that in any way whatsoever. So I get that people are frustrated with how it's been, but that is a mindset of success in 2025 if you're not playing Lars Nyberg every day right now.
Yeah, this isn't true, Steve. Nyberg in 25 is precisely what he has been. Look at the numbers. He is given to balance of brilliance followed by dreadful doldrums. I get it, but you're wrong. All right? Like I have the numbers. There's no hiding from numbers. So let's do it again, because for whatever reason, like if this guy's name was Steve Smith, it would be completely different. People would not have this like great. You guys have lost your minds about this player. All right. What Lars Nyberg was from 2021 to 2024. I'm going to highlight it all on Baseball Reference and read you the numbers. For 4 seasons. That's 4 years, not 4 weeks or 4 months, 4 years. He had a 774 OPS, which was 15% above a league average player. That's a 4-year sample size. If I had 9 guys with a 115 OPS plus in my lineup, I would win. I would be a playoff team every single year with average pitching. That's just a fact. So that's what he's been for 4 years. What he's been this year is a 704 OPS. It's 70 points lower. Instead of being 15% above league average, he's at 1% below league average, 99. He's not been good this year. Don't tell me he is what he's been. That's just not true. It's very easily disproved, okay? That being said, if you're feeling the vibes of Lars Nyberg and you're saying he was supposed to be this and now he's regressed, and so I'm not in on Lars Nyberg and I want to trade him, that's fine. I'm not telling you can't feel that way, and I'm not even saying that there's not an argument to be made that they should do it. I just spent 15 minutes earlier in the show kind of laying out why you play Nathan Church in order to consider, like, what if he's just as productive as Lars Nyberg? Trade Lars Nyberg at that point. Absolutely. That's why I'm enjoying seeing a run for Nathan Church here, because to Ethan's point, there are teams that are maybe going to look at the profile of Nyberg and give you something for him. You might have to attach a prospect or two, but could you get an arm for Nyberg if you traded? And look, I'm not trying to trade Ishan Henderson. He's just the name that popped up. You think about guys that are doing well at AA. Is there a team where you go Ishan Henderson, Lars Nyberg, and Cardinals get a 3 years of a starting pitcher? That I think there's a realm in which that could happen for the right team. And Brendan,
let me ask you this,
that's
Brendan.
Reasonable. Yeah, go ahead.
In maybe adding an explanation as to what has been different. Also, you shared it in the numbers. What about the approach? What about the approach from Lars Nyberg has changed that has caused this drop off to where it isn't just solely a numbers thing? What has led to those numbers dipping off this year that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think his plate discipline has not been nearly what it was in previous years. Last year, for example, he had 405 plate appearances, 52 walks. This year, he's had 20 additional plate appearances and 4 fewer walks, so a slight decline there. It looks like a small one, but when you add 20 plate appearances and take away 4 walks, there's like a decent drop off in the walks he's taking. And had 99 walks. 72 walks the year before that and 503 plate appearances. So he's not going to, be on a pace nearly to do that this year. Strikeout wise, he's got 94 strikeouts in 20 additional plate appearances, but that's 15 more strikeouts than he had last year. So like there are trends on both ways of like, okay, Lars Nyberg, plate discipline is one of his best attributes, and it's not been as good this year. And I think we've seen that. Like our eyes tell us that that's been true as well. Chasing, all those things. And so, if that's something that's a trend, and Jerry points it out, strikeouts are up. That's the number one thing I would say. He's a K to walk ratio guy that is striking out more and walking a little bit less. And I think that's a product of maybe not feeling like himself, swinging the bat. Batting average wise, he's down to 228, but he's had seasons where he's hit 228. He did that in 2022, but he OPS 788. That's his career high. So it's more the under the hood stuff, the StatCasty stuff that we like so much, that his plate discipline has just not been the same. And I think that's kind of in his head at points. But when you can't stay healthy and you can't find a rhythm again, that's another thing that kind of makes it frustrating and difficult to bounce back from and become yourself again. I'm okay with like bagging on Nootbaar a little bit from fans and saying like, here's my analysis of that, but do it accurately. It pisses me off when you go, well, he's the guy he's always been. He's not. You can see the differences. Statistically, you can see it with your eyes. You can see it. If you think it's the guy he's going to be moving forward and you don't think he's ever going to be the guy that he was for 4 years again, tell me that. Don't tell me we're seeing the same Nootbaar in 25 that we've always seen. That is flat out not the case. The numbers tell you.
J-Ro commenting here saying there are other things to be considered beyond production when a player isn't quite what he was, but likely won't stay slumped. Character, teammate, influence, etc. Those matter as well. I think there's levels to this part of the conversation. I think this matters much more, to a Nolan Aronado than it does to a Lars Nyberg at this point in his career. When you look at guys like Lars Nyberg, and based off the production you had gotten from them the last couple of years, they're young and should be in the high points of their career. Now, once again, consider that J-Ro is saying that won't stay slumped in games. The argument he's making, right, is that the off-field things matter too. The argument that Sound of Silence here is saying that the off-field things, who cares about them compared to if you're not performing on the field consistently. I think I would actually lean a little bit more with Sound of Silence on this one. Now, don't get me wrong, having character and having pieces that are going to contribute to the clubhouse, that does help collectively the culture of the team. That I'm not saying that. Yeah. What I am saying is that I feel like J-Ro's comment contributes much more to a guy like a Nolan Aronado, who is tailing off at the end of his career, but has so much knowledge and wisdom on how to play the game the right way, how to do things the right way, that he can pass on to, in large part, young clubhouse.
Yeah, he should be anyway. That's the role that Arenado should be filling if he's going to carry any value. And obviously you can't get rid of him because he's got the damn no trade clause. But like that would be the hope, is like, hey, if you're not going to hit for us, can you at least be a guy in the clubhouse? And the degree to which Arenado is that, it can be up for debate as well. But like in perfect theory, that would be a role that a veteran that's kind of declining in his skills would be able to provide. I agree with Sound of Silence. And like, just to say character doesn't win games is not totally fair, because it can. Sure. Under the right circumstances. But when you got to consider the role of the player. Lars Nyberg is in his mid-20s and has to be, if he's going to be here, he's got to be an anchor to your lineup, and not the kind of anchor that drags you down, but the kind of anchor that is like there in the middle of it all and producing nightly for you. And you can be a really nice guy. Like, I'm sure Garrett Hampson is an awesome dude, but there are certain things that Garrett Hampson is not able to provide to a baseball club, and so somebody's got to do it. I think Lars Nyberg, in the way that he should be contributing to the team, it's in about more than what he is to the clubhouse. The role that he fills has to be one that produces with significance on offense. And like his defense, I don't really care if he can be very mid defensively. There will be moments that stand out when he makes a great sliding catch and saves the team in that way. That does stand out, and that maybe wins you games. But on the 162, he's got to be producing offensively. Nyberg just doesn't move the needle when he plays. I don't see it. I get his OPS plus, but he's so underwhelming to me. I think people only like him because his name is fun to chant. Well, I think it's the opposite of that. If you showed me Steve Smith and he had the same Baseball Reference page as Lars Nyberg, I would say the exact same things I'm saying about Lars Nyberg. That for 4 years he's a productive player, and I would take 9 of them. I would take 9 of those offensive profiles against any lineup you want to put together, including the Los Angeles Dodgers, including the New York Yankees, because of that consistency 1 through 9. You know who that is? It's the effing Milwaukee Brewers this year. 115 OPS plus 1 through 9. One guy might be 112, one guy might be 121, but they're all producing. None of them are. I don't know if they have an 800 OPS in their lineup, other than Andrew Vaughn, who like on the season is not an 800 because he stunk with the White Sox, but now he's OPSing 1100. At least as of last week, when ESPN came out with their top 50 players, it was Chourio leading the way of their regulars at 798.
Yep.
That's 10 points different than what we're talking about from Lars Nyberg. Not 10 points, maybe 20 points different from Lars Nyberg's career norms prior to this year dragging them down. What did I say? He was a 770 something OPS for his career, first 4 years. So, like, I would take 9 of those. I don't care what, eye test certainly matters, but I am convinced it's the opposite of what Jerry says. If his name was Steve Smith, you wouldn't have such a negative perception of the way it looks because you consider Lars Nyberg to be too kind of flashy for the production. That's the inherent bias that Cardinals fans have against Lars Nyberg because they're tired of him being hyped and then not producing, which is fine, but I'm going to call it what it is. It's not because of his name that's the only reason people like him. I liked him because of his numbers for 4 years, and I'm looking for Lars Nyberg to get back to those numbers. I don't really care about the other stuff, but I think fans that are frustrated with Nyberg use the other stuff as a mark against him because they say, if I got to deal with all this other stuff where it feels like you're kind of flashy, you're kind of a name, I want to see the production to go with that, and I'm not getting to, and that's what frustrates people about Lars Nyberg. I'm wrong about some stuff, Ethan. I've never been more right about anything than I am about identifying the Lars Nyberg stuff with Cardinals fans. I am so confident that this is what it is.
Final question here before we wrap on Card Central 365 on STL Sports Central. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Lars Nyberg, Nathan Church, Garrett Hampson. What is the mix at center field over the next, let's just say, 10 days? Because that's how we know. That's what we know. Victor Scott will be on the injured list for at least 10 days. Without knowing how many left-handed starting pitchers we're going to see, how many righties. If it's just blind, this is what it is. Not what should it be? Because I know what you think it will be. What will it be, in your opinion?
It's going to be Nathan Church. 5.5 is the over and under on starts.
Okay.
In 10 games, you said. Lars Nyberg in center field, the over under is like 2.5, and then for Hampson, it's like 1.5. I think Hampson will start 1 to 2 times, and I will pull my hair out both times. Nyberg will start 2 to 3 times, and then the other 5 or 6 are going to be Nathan Church. That's my prediction.
If that's what it was, I would be ecstatic because my fear is that anytime you see a left-handed starting pitcher up there, it's going to be Garrett Hampson starting, and that is what I do not want. There is no productivity to that for your future. Boy, it'd be ideal if they had a right-handed guy that could play center field in the system, but they don't. They don't, unfortunately, right now, and that's why Garrett Hampson is even up with this big league club at this point. But if that's how it ended up going, Brendan, I would be pretty ecstatic. Any final thoughts here before we wrap?
Just to clarify on this, everybody on the Brewers this year are performing Lars Nyberg. No shit. What I'm saying is career Lars Nyberg before this year of 774 OPS, that's what every Brewer is doing right now. They're not like you. I can't be more clear about this, so please don't hear the words I'm not saying and just listen to the ones I am saying. Lars Nyberg from 2021 to 2024 equals every Brewer in 2025. You would want a lineup of Lars Nybergs from 2021 to 2024. The problem is current Lars Nyberg is not doing what past Lars Nyberg has done, and that's why we're talking about him so much. And it's a problem. Like he can't be this guy forever. He has to be the guy that he was from 21 to 24 if the Cardinals are going to continue to build around him. And that's up to Chaim Bloom. He's going to decide, like, dude, what is it that I'm going to have to figure out about Lars Nyberg? Is he someone that we continue to work with, or is he someone that we try to extract value from in November? That's what I'm saying. I would never say that this year's it wasn't just Jerry. It was multiple people kind of commenting, well, yet Milwaukee wins. Well, yeah, Lars Nyberg's not performing this year. But if the Cardinals had 9 guys doing what Nyberg has done prior to this year, I would take that over any other lineup you could give me. But Lars Nyberg's going to have to get back to that. He's going to have to get back to the plate discipline to be the guy that he was, or he's not worth investing in to the level that they have moving forward. And that'll be a front office decision. But I also want to see Lars Nyberg to continue to play so that they can maybe gain as much information down the stretch as they can about how they want to move forward with him.
We will wrap with the lineups that have just been released here by both teams. Miles Michaelis on the mound facing off against this lineup for the New York Yankees. Grisham in center, Rice at catcher, Judge is still DHing. Bellinger in right. Chisholm is at second. Goldie is in the lineup today, playing first and batting sixth. Dominguez in left. McMahon at third, and Caballero is at short. The Cardinals will face off against right-handed pitcher Will Warren, who on the year has a 4.34 ERA and a 7.5 record. Lars Nyberg leading things off. He is in left field, followed by Mason Wynn, who is at short. Alec Burleson is batting third at first base. Ivan Herrera back in the cleanup spot at DH. Nolan Gorman batting fifth at third. He'll be followed by Jordan Walker, who is in right field. Joel Pozo getting the start behind the plate today, batting seventh. And then rounding out the lineup in the 8 and 9 spots at second base, Thomas Sajaci. And making his major league debut in center field is Nathan Church. So those are your lineups for today's matinee contest. 1:15 first pitch as the Cardinals try to salvage one game from this 3-game series against the New York Yankees. And then tomorrow they head off to sunny Florida to face off against the Miami Marlins in a 3-game series, and then they'll stay in Florida and face off against the Tampa Bay Rays as well. And next Saturday, the Cardinals have an off day because something to do with the Buccaneers playing. I think it's a
Buccaneers preseason game, and so they for the first time in a while, you have a Saturday off. And I'm going to a Flatland Cavalry concert, so I'm cool with them being off that day, to be honest with you. So I kind of lucked out with that one.
That's pretty fortunate for you, man. So, well, you heard it right there. Cardinals wrapping up the series today against the Yankees, and then Miami and Tampa Bay over the next road trip. He is Brenden Schaeffer. I am Ethan Hannaford. This has been Cards Central 365, as always, presented by Gray Bar, and then our STL Sports Central's sponsor, DraftKings. The crown is yours. We appreciate you guys joining us for this one, and we will see you in the postgame.